Hey, hockey fans, TBOS is 13-3 here with another top shelf guest, Michigan Tech Husky and Philadelphia Flyer TV and radio legend, Steve Coates. This episode is sponsored by Market & Johnson, Parker Insurance, Valley Sports Academy, Northwoods Therapy and Associates, and Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, which has been committed to the healthcare needs of patients in western Wisconsin since 1954. Mogi.
I got to give a huge shout out to Steve Coates and the Philadelphia Flyers for hosting us here at the Ritz-Carlton in downtown Chicago. And for all our sponsors and our fans, we are not staying here tonight.
I thought with all those sponsors, you'd be able to.
Hey, we're going to hit him up in a little while for more money, Coatsy.
Yes, we are. Welcome, Coatsy. Welcome to our episode.
Gentlemen, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely, yeah.
We are on the eve of you calling your last pro hockey game. How's that feel right now?
I can honestly tell you, I've been asked that numerous times, and I don't think it will hit me until next September. Because in a normal calendar year and not making the playoffs again this year, it would be the same thing as just ending. But not going to training camp next year and not really having to go anywhere and things like that, it's going to probably hit me there. It's just been a marvelous week. The hockey club has just done an astonishing job of honoring me. Last Saturday, my family was, in the corner by the Zamboni entrance. We had a ceremony there. It was just unbelievable. And then we had a cocktail party last night after the game, and here we are for the last one. So it's been absolutely fabulous. And the Flyers, as they have been throughout my whole career, did it first class. And I'm going out with a bang.
You know, you mentioned before we turned on the microphones here, you had a little incident at the airport, and you were kind of wondering how come somebody else didn't get checked, but you got checked.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're going through we have TSA when we go through our charter flights, and they made me check one every 6. So I'm going through, and they said, you're got to get checked today. So just to bust my chops because it's my last game, and then Tortorella came in after. I said, well, how's he going through like that? So
it's probably the T-shirt, Coatsy.
Yeah, well, everybody had these on the plane.
Okay, that is great.
Yeah, it's been like this all week. They've had all these shirts. It's been unbelievable. It's just been a great week.
Very cool. Well, congratulations. Well-earned tributes, definitely.
Thank you.
43 years, if we're not mistaken.
Including my years in the minors. That's 3 years, 40 years of broadcasting, 3 years in the minors for Flyers before I got traded to Detroit.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Quite a run.
Yeah. And let's hope it ends up perfect again tomorrow night for you, with the game and so forth. But you have seen an immeasurable amount of legends come through hockey. Let's start with the Flyers organization. Who was your favorite Flyer player to watch?
Well, it's really hard. First of all, it's like saying, well, who was your favorite player? Well, it's better to think about the players that I didn't like, which was probably I could count on my left hand.
All right, let's go with that.
No. I get
Ilya Bryzgalov right now.
Ilya Bryzgalov. Okay, I mean, just wasn't a team guy, but when you take a look at I've been there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decades. I've known every coach except for one, and to look back at like that, I mean, obviously my favorite time was back in the 70s when I first went there in 73. I said this last night in my speech. I said that's where I learned about the Philadelphia Flyers, is because I learned from the Clarks and the Barbers. And last night, Joe Watson was there about what they meant and how they created what the logo is today. And in saying that, it's hard to say, okay, I can go by the decade and tell you who my favorite player was there, and I can tell you who my favorite player was in the 80s. And every team had a different personality and a different characteristic. And, a lot of people don't know this, that we're struggling right now. We're really struggling. And we've had a couple of really tough years. But since 1967, there's only one team that's got a better winning percentage than the Philadelphia Flyers, the National Hockey League. There's only one other team that's been to more Stanley Cup finals in that time, and that's the Philadelphia Flyers. I've been to 4 finals, and came up dry. But in fact, here the last one was against the Chicago Blackhawks. So obviously because he's a very good friend of mine, and my best answer to your question is Bobby Clark, because he created what we have now. Yeah. Bobby Clark, Bernie Perrant, Dave Schultz, that team, the Broad Street Bullies, put the Philadelphia Flyers on the map. And they've never looked back at that. And the people will always remember them. And that's why they're so popular right now. The Flyers alumni is just unbelievably popular in the city of Philadelphia because of the personalities. So that would answer your question as far as my favorite player, but he epitomizes what you want.
Sure.
Okay. Why was he a good captain? Because he was a leader on and off the ice. And I mean, if he was a leader by example, he just kept going and going and going, and everybody followed suit. And so he would have to be the guy that you'd look back and say, okay, he won. He was the most valuable player in the league. He was the real deal. And that probably answers your question. Do I have a lot of other guys that I love watching? But you see, when you're like, they've been all my friends.
Okay, sure.
I mean, every one of them. I mean, like, it's very surreal to look back and say, yeah, well, Rick Tocchet, Dave Poulin, Eric Desjardins, Mark Recchi. I mean, all-time big time players. And every one of them had a different characteristic and a personality, but every one of them were class acts.
Tell you what, man, I remember those days watching Bobby Clark. He's the prototypical 1970s hockey player. He had the long, flowing brown hair, and he'd get in that face-off dot, and he'd bear down, he'd grit his teeth, and he had those four missing triplets right here. It's like, that's a hockey player right there.
No, he's a hockey player. And you know what? He was absolutely a hatchet man, too.
Well, he had to
he broke Karmelov's leg, ankle. And he'd go after you. It didn't matter. And he could get away with it because he had a lot of protection. The Broad Street Bullies was developed because of the St. Louis Blues came in and beat them up one day, and Mr. Snyder said, that's it. So we go out and get Schultz, Kelly, DuPont, and Selesky. And a lot of those other guys. McLeish could fight. Kinderchuk could fight. So it was a team that, if you could win the hockey game and win the brawls.
Do you think there's room for hockey or fighting in hockey yet today?
Well, that's a great question.
Good, I got one.
And I'm going to give you because I get a question like that an awful lot. Now I'm going to give you a little feedback here on that, and tell you how popular it is, and then I'm going to tell you my opinion.
All right.
3 weeks ago, Flyers alumni have all sorts of different functions. And we have a thing called the Friday Night Fights. And what we do is it's a dinner with an entertainment situation where the people come and we invite it depends upon what year. This year it was Frank Almobialois and Rocky Thompson, Todd Fedoruk, Stu Grimson, Dave Schultz, Dave Brown, and Matthew Barnaby.
Damn.
Ooh.
And we brought them back, and we divided it into first period. It's actually the warm-up, first period, second period, third period, and we show all the videos of the fights that these guys had.
And it started with warm-ups.
And it's an absolute. It's such a great evening, and there's 300 people there. And don't tell me that people don't like fighting. Don't tell me. It's fascinating to me how we can go into a hockey game, and when the fight starts to break out, and the linesman comes in to break it up, that the fans boo. Now, I got to think that, aren't they the customers? Yeah. That's the thing that fascinates me. And they've done everything they've tried, and I don't know who it is, but they just try to take it out, and they take it out, and the guys are still going to fight. And it's funny. It's gone a little bit of not full circle, but it's coming back. Like if you look at the Stanley Cup teams in the last 5-6 years, every team has grit. Everybody's piled on getting it now.
Oh, yeah.
Tampa Bay, 3 years ago before they won the Cup, they had all the skill. They had Stamkos. They had Point. They had Kucherov.
Yeah.
Got all these guys that can play the game, but they had nobody to protect. They go out and get Maroon. They get Coleman. They get Goudreau. And you go, whoa, all of a sudden, they win 2 Stanley Cups. It's important. Now, why is it important? Because it's a 285-foot area that guys are going really fast. They're going to do dumb things, and there's got to be a policing. Finding somebody in this world today, they're making so much money. Yeah. So now all of a sudden you get into a fight. That is policing what's going on. You can take care of business yourself, and the spinoff is the entertainment for the people that are all standing up and cheering.
They are.
Okay, and understand, like I had a guy I said, what do you do? I was doing a question answer period after a speech, and the guy said, I'd like to ask you about why fighting. I said, fighting. I said, what do you do for a living? He goes, well, I'm a doctor. I said, are you in a hospital with a lot of people? He goes, yeah. A lot of people that you work with. Yeah. I said, do you get along with everybody that you work with? Well, no. I said, well, wouldn't it be great if you didn't get along with somebody? You could walk in one day and knock the shit out of them and go sit in the corner for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Perfect. You feel better. He understands his position, and now we can move forward. So, do I think it's an important part? Yeah. Hitting, fighting, scoring. Hitting, fighting, scoring. Actually, a good save. But people stand up and hitting, fighting, scoring. And that's the bottom line to it. Years ago, when I was doing TV, I had T-shirts made up saying, Coatsy's right, let him fight. And now I lost that battle because the linesmen break it up. The other night we had one where they just break. It's just silly. And plus it affects the game. The game, like if you're calling these penalties all the time, in like out of nowhere, you're going to see one of those little ticks on the glove. You go, when was that? This is a hockey game. It's a hockey game. The people don't come to see the referees. And it's not the referee's fault. They're being told what they got to do.
Sure they are.
Does that answer your question whether I like fighting or not?
Oh, you did a fabulous job. Now I got to ask you the follow-up question with that is, do you think that there's a mutual respect that once the fight gets to the point where they're on the ground, that we're done now, we're allowed to let the
as soon as you get to the ice, you're done. That's it.
Okay.
It's over.
Yeah.
It's over. And you know when all of a sudden they start holding on, it's over.
Yeah.
Okay. If they're still going, get the heck out of the way. The linesmen are trying to jump in on, like, the other night, Delore fought, and I'll tell you what a fight it was.
Oh, we liked him.
Yeah, he's the real deal, and he's a real team guy. He can play the game too.
Yeah,
and that's the most important thing. And they're not very hard. They're very hard to find now, is guys that could do that, be the muscle, and play the game.
You're right. It is hard to find that, Mogi.
So let me ask you a question. What we're really seeing more and more is fights breaking out after a good, solid, clean hit. What do you think about that? I mean, I understand if it's a cheap shot or a guy takes a shot at your stud, right? That's going to cause a problem. But what if it's a good, clean hockey play and they go after a guy? I don't know about that one.
Because the players don't know what a good hit is. If you notice, there's not, like, all of a sudden they'll get this hit, which is a great hit, because the players, for some reason, they're not paying attention as much as we used to say. You got to keep your head up. You're going to think. But now, because there's less hitting that they're not paying attention. They're admiring their passes. They're looking around and looking to see if the puck went in the net. And we had a kid come up the other day from Western Michigan, Ronnie Adder, and he's a really good player. But I'll tell you what, he wasn't paying attention, and he got spanked a couple of times. And so
that's how you learn, right? That's how you learn.
That's what you do. You keep your head up. So now he learned his lesson, But that's what's happened, is that they don't understand what a good hit is. So now all of a sudden they're going over and they're getting involved, and they're giving out, instigators, and they're giving third man in and all that. And it's just another waste of time.
Yeah.
And the players, I understand what they're doing. They're feeling that they're doing the best to help their teammate. But you got to understand what's good and what's bad. Yeah. Why take a penalty for what was a good penalty, a good hit by them, and then you get caught? And like anything you learned in the game of hockey, the second guy always gets caught.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Long-time referee here. I always got my ass chewed.
The retaliator.
I missed the first one.
You missed that. Well, yeah,
I did.
But I saw you get in the box.
You played the game in the 60s, 70s, and into the 80s, and you have done broadcasting for 5 decades. Do you think the game has changed for the better, or do you think we need to go back to some older, different rules?
Well, we're all backseat drivers. The game has changed. The players have changed. The rules have changed. The technology's changed. They're bigger. They're stronger. Skate faster. I personally would like to see the red line go back in. I think the players are going too fast. And I just don't like that. What happens now is that if you're below your own goal line or below the circle to the right or the left of the goalie, you're firing the puck up to the far blue line. If he gets it, good. If he doesn't, we'll just keep going and we'll just stretch the ice and nothing's happening. It's just up and down. It's like a horse race. There's nothing happening. Like last night's game against Columbus, same thing. So, is it the game that I like? No, but I also know that this is what we're looking at right now. And I'm not, last time I checked, Gary Bettman didn't call me to say, what do you think,
What do you think, Coatsy?
And I'm not trying to be, I'm not any different than any other broadcaster or anybody that says the game, if we had done this, the game would think whether I like fighting or like that. It's not an indictment of the league. The league I love. I've been in the league forever. Do I have to be happy about it every day? No. But, those are just the things that I see after so many years.
Well, I got to tell you that my favorite hockey player, who's I believe to be a big voice in hockey, and that's Bobby Orr, would like to see the red line come back because his complaints are the exact same as yours. And I don't know. I don't have an opinion one way or the other, but it's fun to hear what an expert, and I would consider you an expert, has to say about the game, and I appreciate that.
I'll tell you what, the guys are going too fast. You got too fast. And you don't see the 3-on-2 anymore. You don't see, it's all odd man rushes now, and it's all over the place as compared to the day where you had to control yourself to get the 2-line pass.
Yeah.
And you slowed it down because somebody's going to get hurt. They're going so fast now, and they're not paying attention because they don't feel that they need to anymore because there's not a lot of hitting. Now, it'll change next week when the playoffs start.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
But then all of a sudden, hold on. You got kids come in, whether they're learning it at a junior level, I don't know. But I think it would change the game back. Here's a good question for you. You guys I'm asking you. Is the game of hockey a better game if you skate faster and the puck goes faster?
Yeah, I like it fast.
See, that's where we disagree. See, I'm saying to you that you like the fast thing. I'm saying got to slow it down because more action would happen. The puck, for years they complained about not being able to see the puck on TV, and they made a mocking of Fox, glowing puck.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yet they have new technology for the sticks that go another 10 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So I'm going, well, hold on for a second. We're kind of being counterproductive to the entertainment value of the game. So there's the people that'll love the beauty of the game.
Yep.
And the beauty of the skating and the stick handling and all that. But that's just part of the game. The part of the game is physical. The game has to be played angry. Has to be. If you go out there and just kind of going you're not going to be effective. And you're not going to be able to win one-on-one battles. You're not going to think, and it's just, that's where we're at. And the game has changed, and I'm a dinosaur. I know I am, and that's the way it is.
I am 100% not surprised on your take on this. I was doing some research on you, and I read that you were a 5'9" enforcer. And I looked at your professional career, and over your 7-year professional career, you averaged 131 penalty minutes a year. So where did that edge come from?
I was like that in junior. Then I obviously went away at Tech. And then I came to how I got to when I didn't have a very good career at Tech. I started off really good, and then I started to drink beer. And it went south.
Down at the library, right?
Johnny Mac didn't like that. In fact, when I went up and I was put in the Hall of Fame up there, I said, I just want everybody to know that Johnny Mac was right and I was wrong. But the year that I was trying to get to a pro camp, they couldn't get me when the Tech couldn't get me to a pro camp. So I had played with a guy named Brad Davidson in Markham back in Toronto.
Yep.
And his father was the chief scout of Philadelphia Flyers. So I called Brad. Alex called me. Alex came to my house and said, sign this. You're going to come to camp. So 1973, I get on a plane. I fly to Philadelphia. I'm just scared. Like, I'm looking around because there's some other guys on the plane from Toronto, and they're a lot bigger than I am. And I'm going, oh, my trouble. And I was the smallest guy at training camp that year. And here they are. This is the advent of the Broad Street Bullies. Mm-hmm. Okay? This is it. They just came off the great playoff. This was the year they were going to win the cup, and they were cooking with gas. And I went, oh. And then I got off to a great start. We all had to go for medicals, and I passed out giving blood. I went, isn't that just special? Yeah, pro hockey player. Yeah, great hockey player. So, no, but and then they said, well, do you want to, I said to somebody, should I wear a helmet? Because I'm coming off a year where I actually fractured a skull. My first game in my senior year against Lake Superior State with a helmet on. And they said, no, it makes you look scared. I said, okay, I'm not going to wear one. I don't care. Plus, I got a flat head, so I could never find one that would fit. So, you had to prove at your size that you're not going to back down from anybody.
Yeah.
And that way, you don't have to get pushed around. And if it gets around that you do that, like, it's just the way I was. I actually enjoyed it. But that was part of my game. I loved the physical play for a small guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, you had some grit. Let's take a second to give a shout out to a couple of our sponsors. Northwoods Therapy takes pride in being your choice for physical therapy, probably what you need after you go up against Coatsy. In the Chippewa Valley since 1981, Northwoods Physical Therapy is a clinic where you can receive the care you deserve and are treated like family. And I'm actually going to Northwoods right now after a shoulder surgery, and they're doing a great job for me. And then let's look at Valley Sports Academy is a brand new large, state-of-the-art sports training facility located in the Chippewa Valley featuring hockey, soccer, baseball, softball, and a new to-the-area lacrosse they utilize and are devoted to helping athletes reach their next level. Mogi.
So, Coatsy, you're born and raised in Toronto, Ontario. That's arguably the hockey mecca of the world. I know the people in Montreal would probably argue with that a little bit. But, you'll have to deal with that when you retire and go back up there. So what was it like growing up in Toronto?
Oh, well, I never dreamt that I would be where I was. I mean, if you told me back, like, I was just a typical kid playing hockey, got pretty good around when I was 13, 14, and I got sought after by the Marlies. The Marlies, I asked them, I said, am I going to be guaranteed to play? And they said no. So I went back and I played for Don Mills. And I went one day just to watch my first junior B game. And I was standing there, and I went with the general manager of my midget team, and Frank Bonello, who's the head coach of Markham, comes up and they introduced me to him before going for the warm up. He says, "What are you doing tonight?" I said, "What do you mean? I'm just here to watch the game." Next thing I know, I was in the lineup.
Holy cow.
This was junior B, and I think I was 16 or 17. I was 17, 18. Doesn't matter. But they didn't have any skates for me. I was wearing a skate that was about, I don't know, probably 2 sizes too big for me. And I ended up playing, I don't know, 10, 12 games there that year. I was making, in those days, I made $2.50 a game.
$250 a
No,
game.
$2.50, which was like $250 a game. And then I spent 2 years more at Markham. Played with a lot of great players, a lot of guys that went on the National Hockey League. And then Tech recruited me and got off to a real good start there. And then I just kind of wasn't paying attention. And it was great. I mean, I really enjoyed I would never have changed my ability to play at Michigan Tech. None. Like I said, the summer when I was there, they stood up. They wanted everybody to know what there was a 100th reunion. Tell us about
we
yourself.
were up there. Yeah.
Were you there?
Yeah, for a little while, yeah.
So I said, how could you, when they came to recruit me, and they said that there's 4,000 guys, 300 girls, and 275 inches of snow a year, how could you turn that down? I'm going to Tech.
What a recruiting pitch.
You got me. Where do I sign? Yeah. Oh, my goodness. So,
did you have any other schools that were interested at all?
Cornell, New Hampshire, University of Pennsylvania, ironically. It's funny that I end up back in the rink, the class of 23 rink, where the Pennsylvania was at varsity hockey at that time. They don't have it anymore. Was the practice rink of the Philadelphia Flyers. Oh. So I didn't go to Pennsylvania because I wasn't. I couldn't get in academically. It was Ivy League and all that. So
that strong C average didn't do it for you there.
C plus. C plus doesn't make it University of Pennsylvania, okay. Ivy League school. And then I was Dean's List my first year at Tech, and then all of a sudden, I told you I started drinking beer, and it went like I was an average 2.5 after that.
Hey, you still made it.
I have a degree in accounting.
So Darcy Way talked about his recruiting, and it was basically what was it, a paper plate of runny eggs and bacon, and Coach McGinnis came in and said, "Hi, we'd love to have you play for us." Yeah. So was that similar to what they did for you?
I never saw the campus before. A guy named Art Desjardins was on a board at Markham. His son, Kenny, was a senior defenseman at Michigan Tech at the time. And a guy named Angelo Comey came to see me, who was at the alumni thing. And during that talk that I said, it's nice to see Angie Comey here. I mean, I got to say something, Angie. How many years ago, 50 years ago, you recruited me to come here? More than that. Take that back, 54. And at that time, you told me I'd be on the power play. Well, there must have been some kind of communication problem because I was never on the power play. But I never had anybody. I went on the Art Desjardins recommendation. You go to Michigan Tech, and they gave me, I had to pay $100 the first year.
Wow.
Scholarship was the thing that was the key. And that's how I ended up in. And I wouldn't trade that for anything, no matter what the 275 inches of snow. No, the camaraderie, when you go to Tech, it's such a unique place. It means it's special to anybody that you meet that went to Michigan Tech. Yeah. It's such a unique place.
Looking back, at this, you didn't even have a recruiting process. You just simply were told this is the place to go. Were you shocked at all the first year with the amount of snow that was up there, or was it easily adaptable because you were inside the rink most of the time?
I was shocked. I was shocked. Like I went, oh my. I mean, And then I couldn't play varsity the first year because that was still the freshman rule was in play.
Okay.
And but they did change it that year, and I think Momont was the only one to make the team as a freshman, and the rest of us, back in the day, that was hockey because there was no entitlement. There was a effort by McGinnis to make sure that you understood what you had to do to get to play varsity. And you certainly wanted to get away from playing junior varsity because you were using the old sticks of varsity.
Oh, sure.
The old sticks. And then the bus would pull up into Duluth and they'd drop you off at the Holiday Inn and they'd go to the nice hotel.
Yeah.
So all the things to make you feel a little bit, make you a little bit more inspired to play good hockey, be a good student, and be part of the varsity.
John McGinnis was an icon in himself as a coach. Can you give us a little insight what it was like to play under him?
Oh, it was like icon is a really good word. He was the first one to actually that I ran into was using video my senior year. And I never did like video. I video, like, it seemed like it was evasive to me. We're all of a sudden going to bring in and show, well, you look at this, you look what you did. You did this, you did that. But now I know how important it is. I think it's actually overused now, where the players are more worried about where they're going and what they're looking at by looking at video and say, well, did I do that right? Did I do this right? Instead of reacting and going out and playing the game properly.
During the games.
Yeah.
Right after their shift.
Well,
Torts took those off the bench, though, didn't he?
We had a problem the other day. A guy got hit with the puck because he wasn't looking. I mean, just stop it. I mean,
yeah.
You're going to tell me that all of a sudden you can go back and look at your iPad and say, oh, look at that, I did this. Come on. It's a game of hockey. And the other thing is you got to be a student of the game. Watching your team play, watching your opponent play, you're learning something about the game every day, understanding what's going on, not looking at an iPad. And Torts just said it's just silly. He doesn't believe in it. And I didn't hear any of the players complain about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So they were following his lead and they were happy with it.
Well, it's very smart when you want to listen to Torts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you want to play,
I want to play.
So you played for McGinnis. You played at Michigan Tech. You mentioned going to UMD for and staying at the Holiday Inn. Can you tell us about some of your favorite battles with the different teams that you ran into in the WCHA? That was quite a conference back in those days.
Huh. We were number one ranked in our sophomore year. Every one of our defensemen off that team, Bob Murray, John Grisdale, Kenny McPhail, Billy Prentice, Jim Nargang. Ooh, I'm missing somebody. They all turned pro. That's how good. Billy Prentice. Did I say Billy Prentice?
I think that was the one you missed. I think you're good.
Yeah, Billy Prentice. I should have missed Billy, who was my roommate. They all turned pro. That tells you how strong that team was.
Yeah.
We were number one ranked all year, 1 game knockout. We beat North Dakota twice up there, twice in Houghton. Go down to a 1 game knockout in Wisconsin, they beat us. And obviously the NCAA understood that that's not the way it should be. And that's when they came out with the rule of 2 games total goals.
Yeah.
Now, since they've gone back the other way because they've emulated the basketball with the brackets, which is fine, I guess. But I would like to have seen the 2 game total goal. But that was heartbreaking that year. That was absolutely heartbreaking. And the big rival we always had was Denver. Denver was always, we were get ready for Denver. That was always special. And then Wisconsin, there was a real, like Minnesota was an interesting thing because they were all American except for their goalie, a guy named McLaughlin, who was Canadian, and he was their best player. We were all Canadian with 1 American who was our best player, Mike Usatello.
Yeah.
So the backup goalie for the Gophers at that time was Ron Dokken, who ended up going to play for Johnstown, and ended up being the goalie in Slapshot.
Oh,
Yeah, he told us when the coach came from where I can't remember where he came from. Glenn Sonmore. When Glenn Sonmore came, he brought McLaughlin with him, and that put Ron Dockin on the bench. He didn't see a lot of playing time.
Murray
while he was
McLaughlin.
there. Yep, there it is.
yeah.
It's all coming full circle, JC.
It is.
One guest after another.
We've had a few former Gophers that would talk about playing days in D Stadium. Did you start at D and end up at John McGinnis?
Yeah, I was my freshman and sophomore year, and then we went to the McGinnis in my junior year.
Any stories about the old D Stadium? These former Gophers would talk about fights that started on the rink and ended up in the
lobby
area with Tech.
And
Maybe before
down
the hallway where all the locker rooms were together.
No, there was no love loss. I mean, Bill Butters he carved up Al McLeod in Minnesota one time, and it got real ugly. That was my sophomore year. D Stadium created the atmosphere right off the bat because it was a smaller ice surface. So there was nowhere to hide. Very much like the Boston Garden, Chicago Stadium, originally Buffalo, were all smaller rinks, about 10 feet shorter and about 5 feet, probably not as wide. They were all different. But I don't know if you know this, but D Stadium couldn't have a regular Zamboni.
I don't know that I knew that.
Yeah, it couldn't have it because the corners were so tight, they couldn't have the Zamboni drive around. It wouldn't have done it. So they had what it called was a Husky, where it was run kind of like a tank, and they could go like this going into the corner.
Do you remember that?
I do remember
there
that.
You go.
Yeah, I never knew why. Now I do.
Yeah, so there was nowhere to hide. And the distance from the corner to the front of the net was a lot easier for the big defensemen to just beat the hell out of you. So it created for a better game. I would think that most players like the smaller condo. Everything seems condensed. It's right in front of you as compared to the big open space buildings that they're in now.
Oh, yeah.
But that's basic what that's about.
Go ahead, Mo.
Take a minute to shout out our sponsors. Today's sponsor is Parker Insurance. Multiple companies, multiple products, multiple savings. See Ryan Parker, who is a hockey coach himself in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, for all your insurance needs. And also Market and Johnson. Thank you to our friends at Market and Johnson, longtime supporters of the great game of hockey and our youth throughout the Chippewa Valley region. Parker Insurance, Market and Johnson. Thank you.
Beer drinking in Houghton, Michigan. You know, that's a rare thing.
I have no idea about that.
No idea about that. Was that primed by the bar called the Library, and you go there to study, and that's kind of how it...
Well, hold on. See, that's... my mom and dad are passed away now. I can tell you the real truth. They used to call the fraternity house, where is he? He's down at the library. Oh, good. He's studying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I wasn't much of a library guy as I was the dog. And actually another place that was kind of Tony's Red Wing Lounge.
Okay.
Tony Bukovich, who had actually played for the Wings, right there at the entrance to the bridge to Hancock. So, the dog would have to be the place
to go.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's talk about the next step. You said nobody was calling. The NHL wasn't calling right away. Did John McGinnis help you find a spot?
He couldn't find somebody because I had been so poor.
Okay.
Yeah. So he actually sat me out they went to Michigan State for a 2-game thing. He was mad at me. So I went and played for the Copper Country Chiefs while they were at Michigan State.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was living large then. 40 a game and all the beer you could drink. And
Up from $250 from junior.
yeah, oh yeah, I was living large. You kidding me? Yeah. We went on a road trip with Calumet. We went down to, we played in Waterloo and then Green Bay. And we had 11 players, including 2 goalies.
So 9 skaters?
Yeah. And we got beat 9-8 by Waterloo. And we were staying in East Dubuque, Illinois. And East Dubuque, Illinois stayed up all night. So you could drink beer. And so we were up really late and then got on the bus, all 11 of us, drove to Green Bay for an afternoon game, got beat 13-1, went home. Outside of that, it was really exciting.
Yeah, it must have been a long ride to Green Bay after an all-nighter.
So in saying that, then when I came back, when he came back, he said, "Are you ready to play Michigan Tech hockey?" And I said, "Yes, sir. I'm ready to go." So now we're on our way to play Denver in a 2-game series. Denver was having their arena redone. So we started in the Air Force Academy on the first night and then went back down to the Cow Palace in Denver. I scored 2 goals in the first game. We tied 3-3, and we went back on the next day, and Peter McNabb put on a little bit of a show and beat us, and we were on our way home.
Wow. But Peter McNabb is a name in itself. So you had a...
Is he a Bruin? Did he make his...
Oh, yeah. He just passed away. He was
Yeah.
a longtime broadcaster for the Colorado Avalanche.
Avalanche, right.
Okay.
So let's talk about NHL a little bit. Let's talk about professional with our buddy Coatsy here. So you didn't get drafted, but you ended up playing 472 professional games, and you played 5 games in the NHL with the Red Wings. So that's pretty good for a guy who never got drafted.
For a guy that never dreamt that I would go that far. I mean, I went there in 73, and I was just trying to figure, okay, if they send me to the EHL, that'd be great. I ended up going to Des Moines, had a really good year there. In the IHL, we won the Turner Cup, and that probably got me my contract the next year. I'm sorry.
So I was going to ask you in the next question, but I already know the answer. So you ended up playing 5 games with the Red Wings in the NHL, and you scored 1 goal.
Yeah.
But you also had 24 minutes of penalty time in those 5 games. So what my question was going to be, was that just you, or were you trying to show a different part of your game? But that was you. That's just what you did, right?
That's the way I played.
You're the enforcer.
I would have been. Well, I wouldn't think I was an enforcer. I was probably a rabble rouser.
Stir the pot.
I got traded there. I was hurt. I had a bad groin. Larry Wilson called me the night before. He said, "We just traded for you," and I went, "Larry, I got a bad groin." He says, "Don't, we'll take care of it. You come here." So we go there, and I tweak it a little bit that practice, and I wake up the next day and I'm not moving too good. The groin's the worst thing. And I always had bad groins.
Yeah.
So we played Buffalo that night, and I was horrible. Couldn't move. So we went to New York. We got on the plane, went to New York. We're going to play New York, and I'm in the bathtub trying to, loosen up and doing all the wrong things. Back in those days, we didn't know. It would have been ice, but we were using heat in those days. So I went down to Lefty Wilson. I said, "Lefty, I know you're going to be mad, but I can't go. I just can't." So the guy, the old, made me feel really bad. So I took, that would have been a Sunday, and I got a call on a Monday he came down to see me, Larry, and he says, "I need you to play." I said, "Larry, I've yanked my groin. I can't move." He goes, "I need you to play. We traded for you. You need to play." Wow. I won't play it. I'll just have you kill penalties. All right. Okay. So I'm playing the New York Islanders. And I get through the first period. I fought Gary Howitt the first period. And I'm doing all right, moving along. And by the way, I was just going to kill penalties. I was in the starting lineup, which meant no sense. We had so many good players. I don't know why I was in the starting lineup. So
is your groin really pulled? You wanted to check, right?
So I get into the second period. And the puck comes back to Bert Marshall, the defenseman for the Islanders. And I'm going to tell you something. I blocked the shot, but it was totally accidental because I didn't like blocking shots. Totally. Like, oh, my God, I just blocked that shot. So the puck goes firing out into the neutral zone. I have a breakaway. Crowd's cheering at the red line. I get to from blue line to red line, and the whole groin goes poof. I get to the far blue line. I can't move. And I skated. I threw it in the corner and went straight to the bench. And the crowd in the same breath went, boo.
What's he doing?
And so to this day, right up until last week, Torch says to me, "Did you really have a breakaway and throw the puck in the corner?" I said, "Yeah. I was half dead." He says, you couldn't even get a shot? I said, no. So that's my legacy when it comes to my time in the net. And then I had to take time off again because so that's why I only played 5. I think I missed probably, I don't know how many at that year.
Wow. But you scored a goal.
Yeah.
Who'd you score
the second last game against Dennis Harrod in Pittsburgh. And thank God it went in because it would have killed him if it hit him.
Oh, you got a rifle.
Rocket, huh?
No, you're supposed to go, come on, really.
You had one of those composite sticks.
Yeah,
It was a
no.
prototype back then.
No. My shot held up games. No.
Kind of like you and I, Moog. Shot held up games.
Yeah. Shot. Save.
Save! Oh, boy.
Oh, my gosh. What were some of the strangest or funniest things you've seen while broadcasting a game?
Oh, wow. Funniest things that I've seen. You got me on that. I'm just trying to think of, like, I've seen a lot.
Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation where you go, whether before or after the game, and you want to talk to a coach or player, and the game either went so horrific that they just, or they're flying high and they just look at you and say, Coatsy, I'm not talking to you. Or somebody that dislikes you.
I can honestly
wouldn't like Coatsy?
I can honestly tell you that I've never had anybody. Is this a family show?
You say it like you want to. Tell us we want to hear it.
See, those are the stories that are good.
Yeah.
And we want to hear them.
I don't think the women will like it. But I'll tell you what, I'm not going to, I won't do that. Because I'll tell you off the air.
Tell us when we're done. Okay. That's probably safest, huh? For everybody.
Yeah, I think, in this world today, if you start talking, it's best.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Okay.
But it's a reality.
I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Reality is that. That's true. Any PG ones that come to mind, though? Not this moment.
Like, I probably, if I had a couple of beers, I'd probably start remembering. But
Okay.
I'm old and
The waiter's on the way.
yeah.
No, that's all right. We won't put you on the spot
No,
anymore.
you're not putting me on the spot. I'm just trying to think. I mean, it's a lot of games. I did a lot of games between the benches. I haven't done, I've done everything. I've hosted between periods. I've hosted pregame, postgame. I actually did one play-by-play game, and I got the worst time to do it, and I was just brutal against Quebec Nordiques of all the teams with all the French names.
Sure.
Oh my! I died at 100 deaths that night. They didn't invite me back either.
Okay, fair.
So tell us about the time when you were doing between the benches and Anton Strawman got basically checked right into the little area with you. Do you recall that?
Oh yeah. How did you know about that one?
I have my sources. I can't divulge them.
If I'm not mistaken, Anton Strawman hit Matt Reed. And Matt came flying across in the air, and the back of his skate got me in the chest. Thank God it was the back of the skate. And I went down like a rock because of the thing. So now here I am because that gate, there was no gate there. You had to crawl over the boards. So here I am being helped off the ice in front of 19,000 people in Madison Square Garden. Oh. And I went, and then those guys were just laughing at me upstairs. And because they didn't know exactly I was hit.
Taking Coatsy up on a stretcher.
They took me into the public health area, and the trainer came running in, and you said, "You come with me. You do not go there because you'll have to go to the hospital. We'll take care of you." Our trainer.
Okay.
So I went back into the training room, and I came back for the second period. But boy, I'll tell you what, that one was. I couldn't get out of the way fast enough.
Yeah. So we just interviewed Alex Stalock this afternoon, the
goaltender.
goalie, and he's got a buddy who does some color work for the Minnesota Wild, Ryan Carter, and he was between the benches last night, and he caught a stick in the nose and busted up his nose last night. So I was thinking about you when he was telling that story today.
These new sticks are so light that you can't tell where that stick's going to go. They don't know where they're going to go. I got hit one game, cut right over the eye. I got a letter from our risk management guy, a guy named Lou Bostic, who's a really good guy. I'd known him all. And he wrote me a letter, said, Coatsy, I hope everything's well. Saw that you got hit last night. Hope you're doing well. But because of that, we're going to need you to wear a helmet for insurance purposes. I said, I've already signed a waiver with the National Hockey League. Why would I need to do that? So I called him. I said, Lou, I'm not wearing a helmet. You kidding me? I'm not wearing a helmet. And he goes, Coatsy, I told you in the letter, liability insurance. So I said, well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to an event with Peter Luco, who's the president of the club. I'm going to get that straightened around. So I'm having a couple of beers, figure, okay, great. Peter's going to get thing. I said, Peter, I'm not wearing a helmet. Yes, you are. I said, no, I'm not. He goes, yes, you are. So now I got to go out. We're playing Atlanta. They get me the biggest helmet. I couldn't even ask. I couldn't even say, excuse me, I'd like to get one fitted. Remember, I told you, got a flat head. Helmet's all over the place. Helmet's down around my eyes. And I'm going through the whole first period. And I'm saying to the producer, have you heard anything yet? Because I figured that they trying to trick me. And I say, have you heard anything yet? Have you heard anything yet? No, not yet. We got to the end of the first period and got to the beginning of the second. I'm still wearing the helmet. And Jonesy goes, Keith Jones goes, we got you. I said, what do you mean you got you? You can take the helmet off now. We've had a lot of fun.
Oh, Jonesy!
But it was Peter Luco that actually did the whole thing. Peter Luco's the president. They were going to actually have Hartnell come over and say, you've been punked. But we were getting beat, so it didn't look like it was going to be a very good thing to do.
Well, with your years playing, calling the game, you still got all your own chiclets?
No, my two front teeth, no, mine. They're capped.
They're capped. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then I see the scar across the nose. How many times has that been shredded, busted, or cut?
That was originally a stick when I played junior, and they didn't know how to do anything in those days. And plus, the skin on your nose has always been the hardest thing to be able to stitch.
Okay.
So they put a powder on there, and the powder kind of made the scar bad. And then I actually went, because I was doing television, you're trying to keep up with the Joneses. So I tried to get the nose fixed with, some surgery.
Okay.
The guy made it worse.
Oh, thank you, doctor. So let's talk about we didn't talk about how did you even get into this? You're a hockey player. You hang out. You're connecting with the Flyers. Did you say you studied accounting at Michigan Tech?
Yeah, my degree's in accounting, believe it or not.
So no broadcasting experience. They're like, hey, Coatsy, we want you in there.
No, I never had. I used to imitate broadcasters, and Chris Economaki and Howard Cosell and things like that, just as a kid. Then my last year in Syracuse, at the deadline date, they asked me not to play anymore for health reasons. They were sick of me. So I became an assistant coach at a time where the assistant coach handed out the meal money, and I was doing color on radio. And I got a phone call from the Flyers. Now, back in those days, I was staying in Philly during the summers. So I became very friendly with all the players. I went to all the functions. I did this. And a guy named Pete Silverman, who's the radio television producer of the Flyers at the time, had always been around me when I was doing all this. And Clarkie helped a little bit, but, they called me and said, listen, we're going to do cable television now. We got Prism coming in. We need somebody to do radio for 30 games a year, do color with Gene Hart. Well, I don't know if you know the name Gene Hart, but he's a Hall of Famer. broadcaster, the voice of the Philadelphia Flyers. And that's how I started in 1980. And I had some good times. I had some bad times. The radio went pretty good for 4 years. And then all of a sudden in my fifth year, Jay Snyder said to me, I need you we're going to start a studio show, pregame, in between periods, postgame. I've never been in a television station. Now, prior to that, I had done some color for the Flyers with Gene on TV. And obviously they liked my work. So now they said, listen, we got to go in. You're going to do the pregame, in between periods, postgame. Just me by myself. Never been in a television station before. It's easy when you're standing with a partner and he asks you a question, you answer the question. Sure. No different than us sitting here.
Yeah.
Now I got to look at the camera and now I'm going to say, hi, everybody, and welcome to Flyers hockey. And now what am I going to say now? Because I'm terrified. And I was like, the first game, I'll never forget. I said, final score here tonight. The Philadelphia Flyers get beat by the Boston Bruins 6-4. Thanks for joining us. And for Gene Hart, Bobby Taylor, and myself, Steve Coates. And then I went, good night. And I was going to say good night. And Gene Hart always said good night, good hockey. Well, I couldn't say good night, good hockey, because he would have been mad. So I said good night and good evening. And the producer said, what the hell is that? Good night and good evening? So that was my first. And then all of a sudden when they do, I'm struggling, okay, because I'm so nervous. I mean, it's one thing to stand in front of a camera with somebody else, like I said, but now I'm no prompter, no anything. And that basically really taught me an awful lot about being able to look at a camera and just talk.
Yeah.
Because you got to have confidence to do it. And it took me a lot of years to do it. In fact, they sent me they said, well, we need to help you. And I said, what do you mean help? He says, we want you to go see Ronald Reagan's speech coach. I said, how am I going to go see Ronald Reagan's speech coach? I'm in Philadelphia. Well, he's at University of Villanova University, which is just a suburb of Philly. So I go out there and I'm going, oh yeah, Ronald Reagan's speech coach. So I go in there in the waiting room and there he is, a picture of him with Ronald Reagan on the front steps of the White House in the Oval Office. I go, ooh. And I spent 3 hours with him. And then he came to the station that night to watch the broadcast. And I was a little worried because when I came in after to see what he thought of it, he was sleeping.
Oh boy.
So I guess it was kind of boring. But he gave a good report. He said, the number one thing you got to do is you just got to be confident. You know what you're doing. You know the game. So just go out there and show some confidence. And I was fine after that.
You won a Mid-Atlantic Emmy in 2000 and 2004 for Best Live Sports Coverage. So you must have been doing something, right?
Yeah, that was a team thing. Our group, broadcast group, our team got those awards. So Gary Dornhofer, Jim Jackson, and myself.
Okay.
Which was kind of special.
Yeah.
Really special.
Dornhofer was an old Flyer.
Oh, yeah. Gary Dornhofer was a big part he's in the Flyers Hall of Fame. Yeah. When he retired, he was my broadcast partner. I saved about $5,000 a year in gin bets and golf bets because he beat me at everything.
Looking back at all the games that you've called, is there a particular game that stands out for you that was your favorite?
Well, I got to tell you that I was just doing reports at this time, 1987, when J.J. Daigneault scored to force a Game 7 in Edmonton. That was the loudest I'd ever heard the building. And they tell you that it's a lot louder even when they won the cup. The 5 overtime game in Pittsburgh, which we won when Primo won. I think the goaltender for Pittsburgh was Ronnie Tugnut. I mean, it was a great win. It was unbelievable, the game. 5 overtimes. Guys were in the locker room on intravenous to try to, and eating food to be able to get enough energy to go back out.
Damn.
And it was very disappointing to me. We won. It was good news. The bad news is the game lasted so long that the bars weren't open when we came out of there.
Dang it.
No kidding. So, I mean, you win a game like that, 5-0, it's hard to get nowhere to celebrate. Done some really good games. Like, there's so many of them that it just, those kind of come right out to right in front of me. You know what? One that's really remembers, the year we went to the Stanley Cup, we made the playoffs in the last game of the year. Brian Boucher against Henrik Lundqvist. John Tortorella was the coach. Peter Laviolette was our coach. So we were going to go to the playoffs if we won. We're going to lose. Goes to overtime. So we go through at that time, it was a 4-on-4 overtime. And I knew what Torts was doing. His team was playing defense. They weren't even trying to score because they wanted to get to the shootout because Henrik Lundqvist was the best shootout goalie in the National Hockey League.
Okay.
So they just kind of played around there for 5 minutes.
Wow.
And everybody figured, well, it's done because Bush isn't going to be able to beat Lundqvist. Yeah. Bang. Bush beat Lundqvist. And I still bust chops with Torts about that. You know, you waited. So,
no wonder you got stopped by TSA today. Torts was getting even.
Coachy, this has been an absolute blast talking to you. Thanks for the memory lanes for me as a kid at Michigan Tech and your history. It's been an absolute.
This has been great. I love being able to talk about the history. That's one of the nice things about being old and have been participated in all this, where I've been in the National Hockey League. I've actually been in the pro hockey business 47 years when you think about it. Wow. And it's, when I look back at it, it's just like, I pinch myself to say that 1973, I was the shortest guy at training camp, and here I am at 73 years old, just retiring. And it's really, really special. And as I said, it won't hit until next September.
Yeah.
Well, we're honored that you took the time to come and talk to us on the eve of your calling your last game. This has been very special.
It's been my pleasure. I've really, really enjoyed it, and I thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Folks, please remember to say hi to our sponsors when you drop in on them, and do us a favor and leave us a rating and review on your favorite listening platform. It really helps us with our sponsors, and it keeps us in the game. Mogi?
Absolutely. And a big thanks again to Steve Coates, as well as to you folks, our audience. Please remember our sponsors for this episode: Market & Johnson, Parker Insurance, Valley Sports Academy, Northwoods Therapy Associates, and Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Follow us on your favorite social media platforms, as well as YouTube. And remember, folks, until next time, stay on your inside edges.